What advice would you give to them?
Try to be useful. Do things that are useful to your fellow human beings, to the world. It's very hard to be useful. Very hard. Are you contributing more than you consume? Can you try to have a positive net contribution to society? I think that's the thing to aim for. If you can live a useful life, that is a good life. A life worth having lived.
When you think about education and self-education, what do you recommend?
Well, I encourage people to read a lot of books. I like biographies in general. Biographies, I think, are really always, really interesting read.
What do you learn from them?
Well, I think you learn a lot, depending upon whose life you're reading about. There are lots of lessons in there. I actually really liked his biography of Benjamin Franklin, who I would say is certainly one of my heroes. He seemed like a really great guy. Well, I think in the case of Franklin, he did what needed to be done at the time it needed to be done. So, he was in different fields, and he sort of thought about, okay, what's the important thing that needs to be accomplished right now, and then worked on that.
Back in 1791, Ben Franklin published his autobiography, and in that autobiography, Franklin actually laid out his daily schedule. Now, you may have seen a picture of the schedule online before, but what I want to do is actually go through the schedule and see what we can learn from it. So the first real item of business on this schedule is the morning question. What good shall I do this day? And this is setting an intention. And I think it's a great habit to adopt in your own life, because setting an intention allows you to give yourself direction for the day. And when those urgent tasks or distractions come up later in the day, you're going to be able to keep your eye on the prize and avoid them. Setting the intention gives you some direction so you know exactly how you're going to tackle the day. And then we move into the main work block of the day. And Franklin split this up into 3 different tasks. First up, there's a 4-hour block of work, followed by a 2-hour block for eating and reading and going over accounts, and then a final 4-hour block of work. And that brings us to his last true activity of the day besides sleep, and that is the asking of the question, what good have I done this day? And asking that question, reflecting on the day's events and what you've done, is just as important as setting the intention in the morning. If you get yourself into the habit of reflecting on what you've done during the day, then you can start to pinpoint what went right and what went wrong. And when you know what went wrong, you can start to target why it went wrong and then make changes which will help you improve the next day. It's pretty safe to say that Franklin was a voracious, lifelong learner, since according to Wikipedia, he was, among other things, an author, printer, political theorist, politician, Freemason, postmaster, scientist, inventor, civic activist, statesman, and diplomat.
I'm a big fan of Ben Franklin. He was a scientist and sort of thinker, and he was the kind of guy who did what needed to be done. So guys like that, I wouldn't say I compare myself in any way, but I certainly admire them. Basically, try to ingest as much information as you can. Try to learn a little bit about a lot of things. Man's search for meaning. But I put a lot of stock and certainly have a lot of respect for someone who puts in an honest day's work to do useful things. If you can live a useful life, that is a good life. A life worth having lived.